You can tell her, you can tell her anything. She's a real good listener. You can tell her anything.
Yo, what's up? It's your girl, Father Longlegs. You know me, Daddy T. I tried to come up with some new nicknames. Here's a couple. Good Tea of the East, Wicked Bitch of the Yes. Okay, I don't know if those are going to stick around. But I am recording from New York City, and I'm very excited for my guest today, okay? She's in LA. She's part of the Hoo Ha Ha team, okay? So she's, on the, genesis creation of this podcast. She hosts a show called This Is Different. The next one is October 3rd. Give it up for Kari Assad. What's up?
Hey, so I'm very stoked to be here.
I'm excited to have you.
Very excited.
I know you're part of, because you are also a stand-up for, I guess I should also say that for people who don't know, but they should already be checking out your stuff. But you're also on the development and Hoo Ha Ha team, so
yeah,
it's very cool.
Long
Before we get,
fan.
sorry, go ahead.
I said long-time fan.
I know, legit. Well, before we get too far, I like to start by asking my guests for a good confession, just to start on a positive note. Is there something good you'd like to confess?
Yeah, I did a gratitude practice in August, and that was awesome. It was like a vacation from my brain. And
what is that? What's a gratitude practice?
This one was through The Secret, which is a little embarrassing because their brand is so obnoxious, but it's like there's The Secret and you can buy all those cassettes, whatever. But this is just one book and it's called The Magic, and it's just every day there's gratitude rituals or exercises to do, one in the morning, one at night. And sometimes there's one you're supposed to do throughout the day. But yeah, it just kind of challenges the way you think about things and changes your perspective a bit. And I needed it because I was feeling real down. Yeah.
That sounds like, I always hear people doing them do these actually work? But if I imagine that's cool to hear that you actually did the plan and it worked. Because whenever I read through those books, I'm I guess I'll read through it once to be this is what I should do later, and then I won't actually do it. So you actually followed it like a plan and it worked out?
Well, it's every day there's you just kind of read a chapter a day and then do the exercise that they suggest.
What are some of these exercises? Just tell the people in your life you love them, or
There actually no, there there is no. It's a lot of imagining. So there's two practices you do every day, which is you get up and you write 10 things you're grateful for. So it'll be I'm grateful for Teresa because we're having this great conversation, and you just list 10 things, and then at the end of the night you say the thing to yourself. You say the thing you're most grateful for that happened that day. So you book in the beginning of the day and the end of the day, and then there's exercises you make a list of 10 things you really want, and then you look at it and pretend they happen, just stuff like that. And
that's nice.
It gives I just feel things did get better for me. There were things I wanted that did happen, but overall it just felt kind of a break from myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost you're giving yourself permission because you feel you're taking instructions, even though you won't do anything you don't want to anyways. When a book tells you be thankful, you're not having that voice in your head that's oh, don't be selfish, be humble. It's well, the book wants me to tell myself I love myself.
Yeah, so. The book said I did a good job, so I guess I'll believe it.
That's awesome. Well, what is your background with self-care, things like that? Is this something where you're I want to try something different, or have you often been into self-help books?
No, I think my mom is really into them. She's really addicted to Catholicism and self-help books. She always has a new one, and it's I don't know. I'm do you see a difference? You seem to really pile them in like candy. So I've always been kind of annoyed by them, but I think 2020. It was hard for me. It was hard, and 2021. I think we all had these expectations to be so great, and then it was oh, it's still really fucking weird. And so and I also I had a big birthday this year, so I think that
happy birthday.
Thank you. So I think I was feeling a little like,
You
mm,
want to restructure your view
yeah,
about your
exactly.
path.
Yeah,
Recalibrate.
recalibrate. Exactly. So I don't like self-help books usually. This one was nice. I might like try and look again for, it's just kind of nice to have something to do, like to give yourself a little mental exercise, because I feel like my brain is always like hyperactive and like analyzing and planning and the next
Yeah,
thing. So it's kind of nice to distract that part of the brain, even if it was just a few minutes in the morning or at night.
that's awesome. Well, I'm glad
Yeah.
that worked out. On that similar note, I like to ask my guests like what their experience with therapy is, since this was inspired by me when I started going to therapy, and just how like I was like amazed how great it felt to be able to talk to people, but just like a third party about whatever I wanted. And there's no right or wrong answer. Everyone has that. We've run the gamut of backgrounds for sure. People tried it, never tried it, hate it, whatever. But just normalizing like any experience that you have. But what is your experience with therapy? Do you go? Have you gone? Like, do you love it? Do
Yeah.
you hate it? Whatever.
I've done so much therapy. Yeah, when I was a kid, my mom, like, I asked to go to talk therapy as a kid because I like,
Oh, you did. How old
yeah,
were you when you asked?
I think I was like 11 or 12,
Oh,
something
okay.
around that. I
Was it
really,
from pop culture reference, or there was like something you actually wanted to talk about?
I had a hard time socializing when I was a kid. Like, it was very stressful for me to talk to people. And like, my sister is younger than me, but we were the same height. We're like 19 months apart. She's
Okay.
younger, but like very much the same like age group. So I remember I used to make her like order for me in restaurants, or like if a phone call came, I'd be like, you pick up the phone. Like, I really hated socializing, and it was hard for me to like make friends and like believe that friends liked me. Like, I
Hmm.
couldn't, I felt always very left out. And so I asked her to take me to a therapist, and she found one, and I didn't like him.
How
But
did you know to ask for a therapist like at 11? Or is that something that your family was really open about, or just you just happened to already like be aware of just the resources out there?
I would say the house was pro therapy. I don't know how I came to that conclusion. I think I was like born an old grumpy man, and then as I get older, I've like turned in. I feel like I'm going reverse. Like, I keep turning into like a happy bunny as I get older. But when I was younger, I was like old and grumpy. I think I just was like, I need to talk to some. I think that something in me knew that I needed to talk to someone, because I felt like I couldn't talk in general.
So you're very self-aware, which is nice,
Yeah.
because it's always I know it's sad for kids who, if you don't understand what it is you need, and you're like a lot of them act out, which I understand. I've done that too.
Yeah.
But it's cool that even though you were like, I'm unhappy, well, here's something I will try to make me happy.
Yeah.
Like, I will try that. Let's see, you
Yeah.
know.
I like to share this other bit about my therapy, because people usually ask for the info. But I did a lot of talk therapy, and I eventually found a therapist I liked in high school, and sometimes I still call her, because LA therapists are hard to find.
Hmm.
But um, I had really bad panic attacks when I was through puberty, like very
Mm.
bad, and then they became worse when I moved to LA as a young 20 whatever. Um, and I did this thing called neurofeedback, which really
Oh.
like changed my life. And
Is
like,
that, I feel like my sister did something for like a neuro something for ADHD. I don't know if it's the same thing, but are you like watching airplanes or something fly on a computer or something?
exactly, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
you are, yeah. And mine was for panic attacks.
And
The
did it
more
help? Like what was that experience?
Yeah, because basically you sit down in a chair and you're watching, yeah, like airplanes. Sometimes it's a butterfly, and then they like put these little non-invasive, I guess, wires on your head, and
Mm.
basically mm, it's kind of like EMDR, except it's doing it for you. Like, you don't have to
Oh,
like
okay.
move your eyes, because I had done EMDR in high school, and it hurt my eyes for some reason. It gave me a headache.
Oh man.
um but this, like, it was kind of like it doing it for you. And so there was the woman who I did it with, we would do talk therapy while I had it going on. And that's probably been the best thing that I've ever done for myself, like
Oh wow.
mental health wise. Yeah.
That's awesome that it worked so well. Did it take a lot of sessions, or you kind of saw results pretty fast?
I felt better pretty fast, but I did do a total of 30 sessions
Gotcha.
with her. But like I remember the first time I did it, it felt like it almost felt like I hadn't had protein in a long time, and I finally like took a bite of protein. Like my brain
Wow.
was like, "Murder, awake,"
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, I feel like that because it's you can't imagine what it is until what you're missing if you felt like that your whole life. And so I can relate to that. I mean, I didn't do neurofeedback, but I was diagnosed with ADHD really late in life, like in the last few years, and then started treating a lot, like got on meds to treat my PTSD and stuff, and that made a huge difference. And it's hard to describe because it's not like I didn't feel alive before, but it's kind of like that feeling you said as a kid you knew something was wrong,
yeah,
and that almost like deep down you're aware that that isn't how things should feel, even though you had nothing to compare it to. And yeah, I can relate to like that feeling. Like once I started treating my symptoms, I was like, whoa, I just feel like I can move through. It's almost like I was underwater swimming, and like I
yeah,
could feel that, but then everyone else is like, oh yeah, there's you're not in water. We're all walking.
yeah,
And finally you're
yeah,
like, no, see, you
yeah.
guys didn't realize I was
I
drowning.
was drowning this whole time, and you guys didn't believe me. Yeah, no, it was really great. And oh dang, I was gonna say something about um yeah, it felt like I got my life back. Like I had felt like the panic attacks came when I hit puberty, pretty much like around 13. And then they kind of would come back again throughout all of high school, college. And now I feel like I've only really had one panic attack since all of that treatment. I'd say I still get
Mm.
anxious and nervous, but now it's like I don't know, my body's able to just digest it better. It's not
You
like
can
burn
handle
it
it.
down. Yeah. So,
Yeah, that's what
yeah.
I think it's important to realize. Because I realized after I started treating stuff, it's not like I would say like, oh, it's a magic pill and I stopped getting panic attacks. But how I felt about them is different. I don't know if that's what you're getting, but almost like you before, or maybe having flashbacks and like
Right.
being triggered. And now if you're panicking because of something in the present, I mean, we can't tell the future. I can't say like just because you're treating things means you'll never be in a stressful situation.
Yeah.
But you'll at least be able to be like, this is happening now and I can deal with it
Yeah.
versus like, why am I panicking? And like, will it ever go
Yeah.
away? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There isn't that sense of dread every time something that makes me like I still get anxious, I still get overwhelmed by things, but yeah, it's not like my body used to just like paralyze itself, and my heart would just be like bye and just like race off to the heavens, and I was like,
Wow.
no, yeah.
And it feels like you like deep down knew that isn't how you're supposed to feel, but it started from a very young age. Like, did you did you ever pinpoint like was it something that caused it, or you just were like an anxious kid and you just knew like something's wrong? Let's like figure out the situation.
We did move when I turned 13, we moved from Arizona to NorCal, which are very different
Mm,
places. And I think I remember my mom driving us to school, and I would have a mini panic attack every
gotcha.
day, like going to the new school. But then it became about things I was like obsessed with. Like I started jogging like just by myself because I could not keep up with the track kids. And
Uh huh.
I would get a little panic attack on the way to
Oh.
run. And then I did a lot of theater, which also caused me panic attacks. And then
Oh
moving to
wow.
LA, I was like, I was like, how will I do that? Like, who thought this was my idea to come here and do this? Like, how will I do this? And they used to like wake me up, and
Yeah.
it was just like it was really hard. Like, I honestly was like, I don't know how I'll live my life. Like,
Wow.
because everything I like, I turned into this like panic thing.
It's interesting because I was gonna say because it's all these things that that would be more triggers for like if you got panic attacks. I imagine being on stage and performer would trigger them, but also that you like it. Like some people are like, oh, I don't like that, and then but that to me is a sign that it wasn't just your personality. Like you were being triggered, but your personality is drawn to the arts. As opposed to there are some people who genuinely are like, oh, I don't like to be in the spotlight, and that's like a personality, and they
Yeah,
genuinely enjoy not doing that.
yeah,
It felt like you had like your mind and body needed to reconcile. Like your body was like,
yeah.
we're still being triggered, and you're like, yeah, get over it because I want to enjoy the
I
spotlight.
want to do this. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I'm a little obsessive, and I know people use OCD and like wrongly all the time, but sometimes when I do meet people who have OCD and I talk about my thought patterns like as a kid, they're like, that sounds suspicious.
Yeah, but some of
Yeah.
it can come from because I feel like even though sometimes I'm like maybe I don't have ADHD, but for now it's the closest thing to diagnose it. But I think a lot of those tendencies are connected to complex trauma and PTSD. And it's sounding like if you were a kid, I mean, I'm not an expert, so I'm not going to diagnose. But if you're feeling already like that young, that this is normal, but also knowing it's not, that tends to be a
Yeah.
sign that deep down your mind knows, like it's trying to reconcile a feeling
Yeah.
instinctively. So that's like good that you list. I mean, you trusted your gut, even though it was a hard journey. I imagine to like follow that voice is very rewarding because it led you here.
Yeah. I'm definitely glad I did it. And it also helped me like I grew up in a house of like, oh, no meds. And I don't take meds now, but neurofeedback. I just remember one time my therapist in high school, I made some mention of I was like, my friend said I should take meds, and I was like mad at her for saying that. And my therapist was like, honestly, I think you should be on meds. Like your brain is fried and you're
Oh
trying
no.
really hard to hold it together, but sometimes your brain needs help. And I was like, that's interesting. And then I didn't really understand what she meant until I had neurofeedback, and it finally felt like I was getting like support.
Yeah, I think people. Obviously, I understand why the pharmaceutical industry puts pressure on, or they put pressure on the healthcare industry. So a lot of people will suggest meds. I think there's nothing wrong with meds. I'm on meds. I know a lot of people it works for, but I'm in the
Yeah.
same way where I'm not trustful of their intentions when they
Yeah.
try to. So I try other things too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like because the meds are also just a band-aid. Like I think the reality is like we're still figuring out all these tools like neurofeedback,
Yeah.
EMDR, but essentially I think the science shows now like what they're trying to do is fix kind of they're not broken patterns, but it's like glitch. I think of like computers when it's like, oh, there's like every time it gets to this part of the code, it glitches, and then it
Yeah.
restarts, and they just need to clear that and reset it, which is totally possible. It's not as easy as a button, but meds sometimes help. But meds are like
Right.
a physical like band-aid, and then EMDR and neurofeedback is a way to almost like go into it and like kind of like
Free.
reprogram it, which
No, it really felt like that. Like I felt like I walked out of the office of her like treatment, and I was like, this is how people feel every day.
yeah.
Like I was like, I remember I was just sitting in my brain, I was like, it's silent. There's no like
Aw.
undertone of like paper, like I was like,
That's awesome.
I was
Because
like,
it's like you trusted yourself that you knew negative thoughts weren't, you knew deep down, like, it's like there's a leaky roof here. Doesn't
yeah,
mean this house sucks. I'm going to try to fix it. I don't know where
yeah,
it is, but I want to fix it. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. I used to call it like a tape. I was like, the tape is playing and I can't figure out how to turn it off. Like,
Oh, I love it.
yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad that worked out for you. We're going to take a
Yeah.
quick break. When we come back, we'll get your confession. And we're back. Okay, Cardi, the time has come. Is there anything you would like to tell me?
Yes. I'm trying to be careful of how I word this. I think the high school theater teacher who I was obsessed with at the time was like, I don't know. He's like into white women the way
Oh gosh, okay.
liberal people are without saying they like love white people more than other people. My theater teacher. So I was just to give like some context. I went to a public high school, but the theater program was so good you could audition and come from any district in
Wow.
the city and like be a part of it.
Where did you go to
So
school? Oh, this was in NorCal?
this was in NorCal.
You
I
don't
don't
say
want
the
to
name.
say
I'm just curious, like
yeah,
where area?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I was in NorCal. It was in
Okay.
Santa Rosa. If
Okay.
anyone from Santa Rosa is listening,
But it's not
they
a
know
charter
Santa
school.
Rosa.
It's just straight up like it wasn't like
It's
like an arts magnet or what do they call it?
it
Magnet
was
school?
magnet. It was a
Oh,
magnet
oh, okay,
school.
gotcha.
Yeah. So it was the high school itself was awesome, and even the program was really great. But it was like you could audition anywhere in the district, and then if you were accepted, then you would go to the school. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was like this really anxious kid already, and also like depressed because we moved, and I was very bad at socializing. So I was really like this was like my dream to get into this magnet program and do this theater school. And so I got in the first year you work with a different theater teacher, a woman, and it's just kind of It's more of like a general high school theater program your first year. Like it's just a period in your day, and you put on like scenes at the. Oh yeah, we had to write a one act and then put that on
Oh,
at the end of the
fancy.
year. Yeah, that was funny.
That's
Um,
awesome.
I was a Mexican immigrant who died of cancer.
You wrote it, or someone wrote you that?
We had to like all write it, and
Oh.
then we would swap. I wrote something that did not get made, which was like a vampire dog werewolf
Ooh,
thing. I thought
that
it was
sounds
very funny.
fun.
Yeah, and they said, please don't do that. And so it did
That's so
not.
funny. People just, it's, I feel like at that age, I mean, and beyond, people really want to be melodramatic. I mean, I see that too
Yeah.
in the film festival circuit because it's like good writing equals sad tragedy, which
Right.
sometimes it can, but that's so funny that
Yeah.
as a high school student, you have cancer, you're an immigrant, you're sad. It's like, okay, that's wild.
Yeah. It's exactly, yeah, I didn't even think about that now. Yeah, it was we
I
worked
did a
really
one
hard
act.
on it.
I wrote a one act for my high school, and it was like well, I was trying to do a comedy, but it was a horoscope writer. Which now I'm like, it's kind of funny that I was trying to roast horoscopes so much because I now love astrology. But
Yeah.
it was like how each one was just so fake, and how like something would happen to her, and then she'd come up with a stupid one, and then you'd watch how it affects someone.
Yeah, the play I wrote was, yeah, because we were like, how what are we gonna write? And then some senior was like, just do whatever the fuck you want, and then we did, and then they voted it out. But the cancer one was yeah, I was an immigrant, and I was like I guess I was a teenager, and I died because nobody wanted to help immigrants.
Jeez. Wow.
And it was the first time I cried on stage. That also made the anxiety worse. I was like, now I have to cry every time I'm up here. But so that was the first year, and then the second year you start working with like the teacher who works with you from sophomore to senior year, and he was kind of like a legend, like beloved
Okay.
by people who do the program, and like the town would even come to the theater. Like that town I lived in loves theater so much,
Yeah.
and they would
It's a
come.
very Bay Area thing, I feel like, too,
Yeah,
because community theater is big in the Bay. I went to a high school like that where I think he just retired, but everyone, now I guess I won't say his name either, but
yeah.
so a lot of people will like, I find out who go to my high school, if I meet them in entertainment, will like, I'll like theater and then
Oh.
people all know him. But I did really like his vibe, but it's funny when you think about the idea of like a high school legendary theater teacher, because that is a common trope. And just to go like, it it's not hard to be liked by, I mean, yes, it's many good things because you're like accepting people who tend to find themselves being different in high school. But
Right.
also when you realize like what being a high school teacher is, it's like, yeah, like to get a bunch of kids to like you, it's like you could boost your ego just by being slightly accepting of them and seeing them as not children. I feel like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there was some like I mean it's weird for me. I haven't even gotten into the weird part yet. The weird part is that we would all come, we all want to be in this program, you know, for
Uh-huh.
the most part. And we realized we're like dedicating more hours into the day than like other high school programs. You have 2 hours in this
Gotcha.
program there. And then as you like excel, you spend time after school. So your world is just like this theater program. Like
Oh wow.
if you're into it, you know, it is free. So no one can make you do anything. But
Sure.
there were people, we were like all diehards. You know, most of the kids in the program are diehards about it.
So what do you mean when you said he was obsessed with white women? Like, well, first, can I ask, like, was he white?
He was white, yeah, and he was from the South. But I think if you were to talk to him, you'd be like, oh, this person's very left-leaning, very liberal. But basically, what would happen is he would always pick one blonde chick that was like his favorite, and he would cast her like in everything. And like
What do you mean by favorite? Like, everyone suspected, or is very like almost a running joke, and they were acknowledging of like, Jessica, you get all the roles, kind of thing.
both, honestly.
Oh
Like
wow.
it was
Okay.
like very obvious. And then and it would affect the girls more because the guys didn't seem to notice or care. Like if a guy noticed, I was like, that's a good guy. A lot of the guys would be like, you girls are just complaining, blah, blah, blah. Like, but like
That's so weird.
I remember my friend who ended up leaving the program, not related to this just because she had her own issues, but we had like little one-on-ones with the teacher, and the teacher told her, and he hadn't even seen her act. He was like, I'm really glad you're here because I want to cast you in this, and I want to cast you in this, and I want to cast you in this. And he didn't say anything like that to anyone else. But he also
Borderline creepy.
yeah,
Almost,
it is. Yeah. And he also
it's like American Beauty, like
mm-hmm.
not necessarily saying it was sexual, but there's definitely like a glorification of like what he imagines is like the youth, the representative all like
yeah.
and that's the vibe of getting like that all American, you know, pageant queen kind of sense.
Exactly. And so that girl who sat down and talked, like the girl I just talked about, she ended up leaving the program, not related to that. She was more of a dancer anyways. But okay. The girls that he would do that to, and that he would like kind of give like more mentorship to, like they'd have like more meetings and stuff. Like it wasn't like it would create an unnecessary divide in the class. Like, because sometimes the girl he ended up picking, like for like the most part of my time there, like it caused her demise in my opinion. Like she like was really into like the idea of like kind of being like the favorite, or like she would like give her opinion out too much to people.
Oh boy.
And
it's
he would
almost
kind of
in a or grooming almost, like there's like
there was,
giving them a little bit of attention and then they want it more, and then like I wonder if a girl hadn't responded to being a favorite, if he would have taken it away, because like it wouldn't play into that.
If he didn't think she was good, he would stop giving her attention. Like if he honestly didn't think she was talented. But what was messed up is like there were other, and in my head I didn't even really think about race yet. It was just like blondes versus brunettes. So if you were a brunette, you had to work like 10 times as hard to get like stage time and prove you were like great. And so like I think that's part of why my anxiety was like up the wall. Was I was like, you have to like come and really fucking nail it, blow it out of the water, you know.
Wow, there's so many layers. Damn.
Yeah. And so, but this girl that he picked, like she like had a lot of hot air in her head. So she would like give her opinion to you about your acting, or like we also had to like build the sets. So then she would be like crazy building the sets, and we all fucking hated her because she was so annoying. And she actually caught us talking shit about her, and she like cried her eyes out.
Oh no.
And then at the end of the year, she actually sat us all down and she said, I don't like the way he made me the favorite. I don't like the way this happened. And like, I think this was all problematic, like from the start. And she like kind of was like apologizing for being so fucking annoying, but also kind of like calling him out at the same time. Which was like kind of really cool of her now that I think about it.
Yeah, because that sounds, you guys were all in high school, so that's pretty self-aware to be. Yeah. Dang.
Yeah. So, and I like that happened. And then I went to Emerson, and then I started to really notice like the racism in casting and the way people treat you in theater school. Like if you are not like the white American image they have, like
the Sandy from Grease. Had you like, because like most high school productions, that's where you do get more of like quote unquote so-called like colorblind casting, because by default nobody's an adult man, you know. So like where was that, like did you have instances where you were like going out for roles and you felt like it specifically just went by aesthetic bias, or because the school I imagine was all teens, so it's not like, I don't know what kind of plays you guys did, but were people playing like totally different roles than themselves, or
we were a straight theater program, so no musicals.
Okay.
And it was like Sam Shepard, Shakespeare. We did a lot of Shakespeare.
Okay.
A lot of
traditionally played by all dudes.
Traditional like white play. Sam Shepard was like, we did a Lie of the Mind, which is like insane because I played the character Beth, and if you're not familiar with Sam Shepard, which you probably aren't, Beth in the play A Lie of the Mind wakes up having brain damage from her husband beating her.
Oh my god, I love Sam Shepard. Actually, I haven't read that one though, but that's heavy stuff for high school for sure.
It is, yeah. So that's also probably why I was so freaking anxious. So we were doing these really wild like Americana plays. We also would do like Northern English plays. Okay. There was one year I wasn't in the like there was like the senior junior class. I wasn't in the class yet, but they did this one play that was really interesting about like prisoners from England being shipped to Australia and like that whole like migration. And so the kids all had to learn like Northern English accents and stuff that year.
Whoa.
And it was really, the program was like amazing in a lot of ways. And he would do it all by himself. And I think work way past what they paid him to do it.
Huh.
So like it's kind of complicated because I feel like I learned a lot of like my work ethic and kind of like in a way the way he did that fucked up shit. Like I'm used to just like keep going when people aren't cheering for you, you know.
It's
And
always
so,
complicated with stuff like
yeah.
that, but I would say that's almost there. I never hear instances of people being like, and this person. I'm not saying he was like abuser necessarily, but I'm just saying even an
Yeah.
extreme would be like he was an abuser and it was all bad. Like that's implied
Yeah.
that there were reasons. So I think
Yeah.
it totally. Because then on the flip side, there are totally many experiences you can have where you learn things that don't include that. And because I have to tell myself that all the time, I'll be like, oh, this company I work for, or these, this early childhood experience and this extracurricular, where I'll be like, oh, looking back, kind of fucked up, but then be like, but also look how much I've learned.
Yeah. Look at
But the
me
reason
now.
is like that's a way to cope and be like, we're here, because you don't want to evict. I mean, the reality is like you're strong, you're here. So like,
Yeah.
anything that has happened if you're here is good for you because you're here, but doesn't excuse anybody else's choices.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I also just like when I like the experience happened and then I went to Emerson. I don't care.
So what did you go for school? I mean, sorry, did you go for theater? Not for, sorry.
I did. I was in their BFA acting program.
Okay, that's a great program.
It was good. It was hard. And I also found myself having to like make shit happen for myself because of like, I felt like there was a lot of racism there, and I feel like there are still theater
Boston.
students. Yeah, right. Who would have thought? There's a lot of theater students there now who are still like, I had to like sign some petition to like help them get in front of the scene. I was like, this is still happening. I've been gone for so long. Like,
was there a lot of typecasting in college, or did you get to like in college? It's almost that weird transition where, because I imagine once you go into like professional stage, they do really, I mean, unless you're in like a Hamilton, they really do just go like, you don't look Irish, you can't play Irish or whatever.
Yeah, there's typecasting, and then there's like plays that they would do that. I guess there were plays like where it was a little blind casting, but for the most part, I would say it was typecast. I felt like the most diverse plays at Emerson were the like the TYA play, which is theater for young audiences, which is like cool, but it's like not every person of color at the school just wants to make a play for kids.
For children.
Like, yeah.
It's interesting how a lot of content for children does end up being more progressive or inclusive because adults don't take it. When sometimes they go, oh, well, they're just kids, so like let's just make everything an animal. Be like, but that's the point, because we are all. It doesn't really matter like they get it, but then they like miss the point because they're like, well, that's for the kids. They'll grow up and learn racism. It's like, or not. Maybe we could do all of theater like this.
Yeah, exactly.
What was your like the roles that you found yourself, I guess, getting put in, the boxes you found yourself being put into?
There was more of like, oh, you look different, so you should do like different roles type of like conversations. Like they wanted.
Were you getting comedic like sidekick laugh relief or like just serious cancer patient everywhere?
I was like, they cast me as, I don't think you can even say the name anymore because it was a Tom Sawyer play, and I was
okay.
the bad guy. And
Gotcha. Okay. Oh boy.
His second name is Joe, and the first one is a slur.
Wow.
So I played that, and then I was in a TYA play as a dog, and then
were you the or how? What was the like? Was your program mostly white?
Yeah. Emerson in general is mostly white, which I think is like the issue. Like they one time wanted me to audition. It was like, this was a student play. A lot of these were student plays. I didn't get picked for the main stage show because they didn't think I was good enough or I didn't fit, whatever. I was put in a lot of, Emerson is like a lot of DIY for a school that is so fucking expensive.
Gotcha.
But yeah, there was this one student who wanted me to come audition to play a Black woman, and I had to like explain like, no, I didn't explain. I just said I can't. But in my head, I was like, this is really bad.
Yikes.
Like, but I don't think she's a bad person. Just like there are so many white people there, and there's no one really like advocating or trying to explain. I remember one time
Yeah.
we were having a conversation about oh dang, what's he writes everything. He's the
Woody
black
Allen?
playwright.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm like playwrights that write a lot. Plays. I don't know. August Wilson or.
Yeah, August
Oh,
Wilson.
okay.
We were reading an August Wilson play, and like the conversation came up of like, um, do like black people still think about slavery today? And like a lot of the kids were like, why would they? And
Oh my God.
I had to like raise my hand and be like, hey, you guys, there isn't a black person in this
Oh
class.
gosh.
So like, how could we even broach the subject? Like,
Wow. Yeah.
so like maybe just think about there are things you don't have to deal with that they do. Like,
Yeah, that's such a wild question to
Yeah.
ask while reading August Wilson. I mean, maybe my experience is like almost extreme opposite because I went to like a summer camp and then we took theater. But I did the theater program. It's one of those like supposedly like, oh, get a college course credit, and then you're supposed to do like cool science or math. And I was like, theater. But our teacher, he was black, but he had us do the piano lesson, and he taught it really well because we like did it for kids. We were like, I don't know, preteens. So it's a lot about wanting to act and just play into these roles. But the first thing we did, and now I understand this, I didn't at the time, the connection. I was like, oh, this is a cool improv exercise. But he had us all like close our eyes, and he like played like old African beats, and then told us like kind of did a spoken word about like imagine you're like with your. It was actually really emotional because we were like, it's weird to say this now because we also weren't black, but I think he wanted us as children to like have some like like mentorship line to a different point of view.
Yeah.
Because this is in the Bay Area, but he had us like pretend we were like in a village, and then like what it's like to have like the ships show up and take you away, and then that didn't like piano lessons like set in at that time more modern day, not modern day, but it's not from all the way back in Africa, but to me, I was like, oh, how interesting that we did this exercise for this. But now, as you're saying this, I'm like, oh, I'm actually really grateful he did that because it set this, like, put our brain in a place where it's like, this is coming from, doesn't matter what you grew up in or what your understanding of, like, Black America is. Like, he wanted us to remember, like, these families and stories that pop up later all stem from this, like, horrible act that there was no choice in. And so I do feel like that set some sort of like foundation for going into the play with a little more like empathy that I'm grateful he did now. But until you said that, I had never connected why because we were just like it's like more of an improv exercise, like dance around, act like you're like here. But that was like when we were like 11. So I can't believe college.
No, yeah, these were college kids, and they're like, but why? It was so long ago. And I was like, oh my gosh. I will say I had a really good history teacher in Santa Rosa who like showed us like images of the slave trade and like also explained the history of the slave trade and like put it up in like the years that people were slaves versus the years they've been free. At the time when he showed that to me over a decade ago, they had been enslaved longer than they've been free in like this country. So just like hearing number, I don't know, it's just good to like have a diverse learning of where you live. And it's wild that all these people hadn't had that yet, and like we were all grouped together. So I feel like Emerson it wasn't like maliciously racist, but it did like naturally kind of call into like systematic racism a lot. And I don't know, it made me think about my high school experience differently because in my head it was always blondes versus brunettes in this classroom of us like trying to get the big part. And then I was like, that's like really fucked up even more that he was like always wanting to put white women center, like even though he is a left-leaning man. Isn't that a little white supremacy?
Yeah, it super is. That's wild. Like you're like bringing up so much that I didn't even consider because I liked theater. I was never in such an advanced program like that, but I remember thinking like when schools announced we would do musicals and schools announced a musical, I'd always hope that there would be like, oh, let's do one of like The King and I or whatever, like anything in my head, like West Side Story, anything that like vaguely had like roles that weren't just all white people. I'd be like, I hope they do like one of those plays, because
Yeah.
then I maybe have a shot. Now I realize like theater programs actually probably get together and think about who's in the program when they're creating them too, probably,
Right.
which is also
They,
strange.
yeah.
But they're probably like, oh, could we pull this off? It's not so random.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's wild because there's like so many layers to that you're already thinking of, like what roles are possible for me to even succeed, and I still have to audition
Yeah.
to get. West Side Story is a wild one because we did it at community theater one year, and I'm realizing like both Marias and both casts were white.
Yeah.
And then all the kids all the people of color were cast as the sharks, myself included. And they had us wear like, I mean, I suppose you would call this brown face, but I don't think we were aware of. Like, we had to put stage makeup on, but they told us, they encouraged us to get darker colors. Yeah. Which I'm like, oh God, like that's bad. That's very bad. But then you also like, these are children. I don't know. Like, I mean, it's so many things. Yeah. Yeah. We also stuffed our boobs, you know, to look like. So there's like there's a lot of fakery going. A lot of fakery happening.
They had you as female sharks.
Yeah, I was a female shark. I had to pad my dress so I looked more like an adult.
That's so funny. I didn't know there was like females in the shark. I thought.
Well, I guess we're the girls dating the guy. Well, yeah, because you dance in America.
Yeah.
There's the whole American dance.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't do the accent.
I can't do it.
I'm not gonna. Well, I should say I'm not going to do it, but.
Like, I physically good, but yeah, exactly.
I did it on stage back then, not on. I mean, I just you know. Let's not beat around that bush, but.
Yeah. Exactly.
I won't do it now.
Yeah, I won't.
So how did this all come out? Like, did you finish the program? Did you bring this up with anyone, or like was this just all? Well, you said you went to Emerson and and started looking back on all this. Like, did this manifest in any way that like you confronted it?
We did at Emerson. We ended up putting on a Shakespeare. We did Hamlet set in the Mexican-American War, because some people had. I think someone. I had heard enough like racist things, very passive aggressively in class. That was like, fuck this. And then there was this one teacher that was like, if you were to produce a play, how would it be? And then I just like went to town on the project, and I was like, I'm going to do Hamlet in the Mexican-American War.
Oh, nice.
Because there's like a part in the Mexican-American War where the Americans showed up and Mexico was like, you can have this city. And everyone's like, are you sure? And they were like, yeah, just take it. And like, that's the end of Hamlet, basically, is like, everyone's dead. And the prince shows up. He's like, oh, cool. It's mine. So we did it in the Mexican-American War. I placed the project there, and I explained the imagery, like that Hamlet's father would come out with like Day of the Dead makeup, and it would light up, and it would really like resemble this. And one like student was like, so like, will all of your actors have like Mexican accents? And I was like, no, we've been here forever. We speak English. And I actually was approached by other students of color who were like, we want to do this play for real.
That's awesome.
So we like produced the play, and it was kind of like a big fuck you to the school. And we only put like Latinx kids, or we brought it out to people of color because we knew a lot of people were feeling shoved out, and it was like a really cool production. And I'm really happy with how it came out. And we even had like teachers donate their time to like come coach us and like help us make it cool. And even teachers like from other universities who like were mad about how kids of color are treated in theater came and donated their time.
Were you in it, or were you directing?
I produced it, and then I gave myself Ophelia because no one was giving it to me, and I wanted it.
Tragic sad girl.
Sad girl. I used to be so good at sing crying. I was like a pro. So good.
That's actually you're actually appropriating white culture there.
Yeah, that's true.
Sad tragic white girl.
Sad tragic white girl singing, drowning. And so it was cool. It was weird because we like really expected like the teachers to come. We'd be like, yeah, you guys look at our play, and then they didn't come because they were like, we're gonna go home. I don't know. But the people who coached it came, and other students came. But it was interesting, even producing that, like, because the people of color at Emerson, I guess like a lot of people do feel the racism there. Like the woman who was in charge of the venue we did the play in, she was a faculty member, and she basically gave it to us because she liked the message, and she happened to be Black. And I remember the white students were like, "How'd you get that venue?" Blah 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 blah. Like, and it was like, "Get off my fucking ass! You're cast all the time. Let us have this one fucking thing." Like,
That's wild. It's like in a world where the invisible norm is to be white, it's like anything that differs from the like what white people who don't go out of their way to think like, oh, we have privilege, like anything that differs from that feels like it has to make a statement, right? So that's like the extra burden. Like if you can't just be like, I want it to be equal. Like if you produce, I mean, it sounds like you were trying to make that point, but I imagine white people felt uncomfortable that, oh, why is this now we can't even audition for this because it's an all like it's set in the Mexican American War, and that's not fair. But like I could audition for Spring Awakening, but it's like, but if you think about it, like it is actually very fair because a lot of these plays, like they don't say it's an all white play, but it's kind of.
Boy, is it implied? Yeah.
Yeah. So they just are uncomfortable that they have to face that at all. Whereas like you're just trying to say like, hey, I'm not even taking anything away from you. I'm just like giving something to myself. And by doing that, you feel like you're having something taken away from me. That's like not very good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's why like Chelsea Gros has this really funny bit. She's like, when you tell white people no, sometimes it's like pouring water on a tin man. They're like, wait, what? Like, I've never heard this. Like, and it did kind of, there were people who were obviously very supportive and were allies. And then there were people who were kind of like, oh, okay, so you guys get to just, because we did get, like I said, there were people of color faculty members that were very excited and pushing for us. So it was weird to feel that. And sometimes I feel that now, even doing stand-up, like trying to curate a lineup that is people of color. Like I don't hear it a ton, but I do hear like, well, it's hard for everyone. It's like, it is, but I don't know. I still see.
It's easier for some. Yeah. I think that's the key because I should never feel like it's a trade-off of like who has the most trauma. Because I'm like, yeah, I get that shit happens to anyone, no matter your background, wealth, or whatever. But if I can help make lives easier for some people, like it's nice to start from the bottom. Like, doesn't matter if tragedy hits at all levels. Like, there's more of a shot of getting out. If you're born white, that's just true. It's not that every white person has a better life than every person of color, but you know, given everything the same, there are some systemic differences. Like, and you can't ignore that. But I think people take it really personally. Well, I don't want to say all white people. I think people who get offended by hearing that something is specifically specifically a person of color cast or whatever, that is usually exposing a bias of like they're used to seeing the world for them. So the fact that it's not for them, they can't just do the tuning out that like we do, right? Oh, Disney princess, I just know that's not gonna, most likely not gonna be Asian unless they make a point to be like, this is our Asian one. Like, we're used to that. That's how we see the world. So it shows that they're not used to seeing a world where there's any like qualifier at all.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really weird to me, like when randomly they're like, people are just like, I had a friend that saw Beyonce's, this was back when she did the Black Panther thing at the Super Bowl. And he was like, I didn't like that. And I was like, what didn't you like about it? It was a very good performance. He's like, no, I didn't like that signaling. It's like signaling that I see you and we're united. Like, what do you see from us just like celebrating ourselves that tells you this is war now? Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't know.
Man, that's wild. Yeah, you can really hear a lot without people really tell you a lot without telling you. Like, they think that they're not saying anything, and you're like, interesting. Interesting, that was your reaction.
Interesting that's where you went with it. Everyone else is enjoying the sunshine, but you hang out in the shade, I guess. Like,
that's funny. So we're getting to the end of it. I'm curious if anything, how did this all play out in your? Obviously now it seems like you're very aware and understand the problematic patterns. With this, like, kind of to wrap up this experience in high school and college, like, how did this play out to where you are now? Like, you just kind of on your own got over it, or you really, like, I know you're very active in, like, producing and being a part of uplifting voices of color, so, like, did that play into your choice to do that?
I feel like in my, like, I really love performing and doing stand-up, and that is, like, what I'd like to do more of, but I also am very like, it has taught me to be a producer and like make things happen when things aren't happening for you, and like also how to like bring people with you when you do that. Like not just uplift yourself, but like how can I also like get these guys like in my boat, and you know, like how do we like become like a horizontal rise instead of just like, you know, fighting alone for that one spot that isn't really meant for you anyways.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's why I'm happy to work at Hoo Ha, and even like I produce shows, and like I said, I love doing stand up and I love being on shows, and I also like producing because I do like being able to like share like the spotlight and the wealth or whatever.
So if you could say something to this theater teacher, you don't have to say their name, and it can
Yeah.
be like a symbolic,
Yeah.
but like give us a quick like little like just 30-second to a minute like kind of like
Oh,
say what
man.
you
I
get it
haven't
off
done-
your chest, what you want to get off your chest.
I'm like getting emotional. I feel like my first thought is fuck you. But also like I hope you get help. I hope you, yeah, now I'm just like quoting Kesha.
Okay. Well,
But
there's a
right,
white woman I can stand, so.
yeah, there's a white woman. My initial was fuck you, but also just like I don't know, my first other thing is like you're not as liberal as you think. Like you think you're helping, but you're playing into the same toxic thing that you complain about, or that you would take to Facebook and be like, how could, you know, they do this, but you exhibit that, you are subconsciously doing that yourself.
Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing that. I want to end with a quick game, just for like a little lighthearted. I vaguely had an idea of what you're talking about, so this inspired because I used to be really it's similar. Like I've kind of shared, like also my internalized own racism and the way that like I loved blondes. I've always loved that like quote unquote all American girl vibe, and to the point where I was blonde at one point. But this game is called American Girl or Miss American Contestant, because you just kind of brought up in my head like the idea of like with the idols we put in front of our young girls. So we growing up in America, like you don't have to be a young girl, but these specifically, I guess demographically in a corporate sense, target to young ladies. But a lot of these idols are very like manufactured. So I wanted to take some fun facts. Okay, so whether these are real or fake, they're all facts, but American Girl dolls fake. Okay, they're fake.
Oh, okay.
Miss America, real people. Okay, they're
okay.
Former Miss American contestants. American Girl dolls. Okay, they're both generally meant to inspire young girls. So I'm just curious. I'm just gonna read a fact. Tell me if you think it's a Miss America or American Girl doll.
Okay.
I guess the vibe is generally, who do you think is a better role model, these real people or these fake people? Maybe none. I don't know. All right, here's the first. I'll read the first name because I don't know how familiar you are with American Girl dolls or Miss America, but okay.
I'm not that familiar, but
No, that's good. So I think I can read the names.
Yeah.
And Kira is thrilled when she gets to spend a month at her Aunt Bailey's wildlife sanctuary in Australia caring for koalas, wombats, and kangaroos. Is Kira an American Girl doll or Miss America?
I think it's Miss America.
That's a good guess, but you are incorrect. This is the American Girl doll, Kira Bailey. Okay, and this is actually the 2021 new American Girl doll.
Oh my
God. All right, here we have another one. Jessie can do the splits upside down. Is this a Miss America or American Girl doll?
I'm gonna go Miss America again.
Okay, correct. This is Miss California 2016 Jessie Carmack.
Okay.
She can do splits upside down. Pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. Honestly, very cool.
Nania's life is filled with hula dancing, fishing with Papa, and playing with her pet dog, Melee.
I'm going to guess doll because they used the word Papa.
Yep, correct. I know. I'm like, that probably gave it away. But the answer is American Girl doll, Nania Mitchell from 1941.
Miss America, there is a Miss America out there who calls her dad Papa on stage.
I'm sure
like,
there
one
is.
Time.
It's like Pennsylvania, rural Pennsylvania. Okay, Courtney's dream job is to work with penguins at a zoo. Miss America or Miss... Correct. This is Miss Florida 2016, Courtney Sexton.
Ooh.
Here we have Camille can't stand red gummy bears.
Miss America.
Correct. Miss New York 2016, Camille Sims. Okay, Samantha can't help show her daring side. She loves to climb trees and voice her opinion.
A doll, the American doll.
Yes, American Girl doll. Oh my God, you're doing great. Okay, here's the final one. Deirdre received a volleyball scholarship to college and became a doctor after going to medical school. American Girl doll. Miss America, actually, that's Miss America 2005, Deirdre Downs, and she actually, well, she's not she wasn't out when she was crowned, but she is now married to her wife, so queer icon Deirdre Downs.
I apologize, Deirdre Downs. I'm so glad you did that.
So quick to judge. Okay, no.
I was being mean. I was being mean to Miss America. I was like, she did not get a doctor. No.
It is funny because they do really try to change stereotypes while doing them at the same time. Because I think this year's Miss America, which I didn't put in there because it's so corny. I'm sure she does seem really great, but her talent was performing a science experiment, which is cool, but it's it's almost like in the face of. It's like, you think we don't do science, so here it's like you can do science, but who performs science? That is strange.
Right.
We're at that level where you have to perform it to prove you know it.
Yeah,
and
they're like,
that
is weird. Cause they're like, look at her measure. Wow.
Yeah. It's like, okay.
She's weighing a Benson. That's crazy. Yeah, I agree. That is really weird and even more condescending.
It's so much stranger for sure. But I mean, she is very smart clearly and knows how to work the system. So good for her. Well, thank you so much for doing this show. Let the listeners know where they can find you, follow you, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, follow me on the gram at Assad Kari Rocks, KARIROCKS. Wow. And I'm also on Twitter at Assad, or just Kari Assad. It's Kari, but just for spelling reasons, Kari, Kari.
Thank you, Kari. And you can follow this podcast, Tell Me Anything Pod on Instagram. Follow me, Teresa Lee Bot on Instagram, and at Larissa T on Twitter. That's it for this week. Goodbye. Thank you for listening to You Can Tell Me Anything. You Can Tell Me Anything is a comedic podcast created and produced by Teresa Lee on the Hoo Ha Ha Podcast Network. The Hoo Ha Ha team is Ashley McAtee, Audrey Povar, Maggie Wheat-Austin, Kari Assad, and Stephanie Binot. The theme song for this podcast was created by Cody Johnston. The outro music was written by Shipwrecked Sailor. And the Hoo Ha Ha app can be found in the Apple Store to stream your favorite comedy series and laugh out loud podcasts by the funniest women in comedy. To contact this podcast specifically, you can email tellmeanythingpod@gmail.com and follow us on Instagram at tellmeanythingpod. Thank you.